Well, so we talked in the previous episode, we talked about self-preservation. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. Yesterday, I hosted some people in the house, and we had a letter. Of course, this didn't come out apparently, but as we were talking, all was running through my mind was self-preservation. And all of us have a wall of self-preservation pulled up, and some of us as high as it can get. And there's a tool that we like interacting with a lot, and we like getting people to really interact with, about self-preservation. The first time I heard about this tool was, and I really interacted with it, was in 2018. And it was from one of the giant worldwide founders who threw it on my face, and I'm like, whoa. And I started thinking around it, and we all have self-preservation. And self-preservation is not necessarily bad. But it gets bad when it hinders you from having the real impact you need to have. When it becomes your weakness, when it becomes your hindrance, when it's on your way to actually gaining that breakthrough that you need. When it's on your way to actually gaining that kind of influence and impact that you need. And I remember once putting this tool out of self-preservation, and I just sent it out on email. And a lot of people got back like, hey, Gabriel, I need to listen to more. I need to hear more about what's your opinion, what's your take on this self-preservation thing. And we might have some things that we need to preserve. Maybe it's your own reputation. You need to preserve that. I don't know what that means to you. Maybe it's your name. Maybe it's some practices. Maybe it's a culture of your organization. You want to preserve the culture. Maybe you want to preserve something you hold dear to your heart. This is a relationship you want to preserve. Maybe you want to protect something from external influence. But I want you to also think of this. When you struggle so much to protect something, be careful, because you might lose it. And most of us know probably of moments where we worked so hard to protect something, and then we ended up losing it. We ended up losing it. And we can remember every effort we did. Maybe there was this relationship you are cultivating, and you worked so hard. You went out of your way. You did the unthinkables. You did some things just to protect it. And then it just slipped from your fingers as you were watching, like, oh my God, the way I worked so hard to preserve this thing, and it just went. So I want us to think of these three questions. Whenever we talk of self-preservation, these three questions on this tool really come to my mind. And they're very good questions. I remember talking to someone who told me, Gabriel, I still don't know how to respond to this question. And that's fine. The thing is, you might never it's not a yes or no response to this question. And so don't look for a yes or no to these questions. Don't think you figured them out, because at one moment you might have an answer, another moment you might not have an answer. The first question is, what am I afraid of losing? What is it that I'm afraid of losing? When my wall is high up here, when I'm choosing not to be vulnerable to someone, when I'm choosing not to let someone into my space, when I'm choosing not to let someone into my world, is it because I'm afraid of losing something? Am I afraid of losing my reputation? Am I afraid of losing the respect that people have towards me? I remember once being in a small group conversation, and I do a lot of small group conversations. So I'm in that space, and people were sharing, and I was debating with something to share. And I told myself, no, Gabriel, just share it. Just share it and see how it plays out. So I said, okay, I'm going to risk it. And so I shared that. And the minute I shared it, it's kind of some cloud just left, and everybody felt like they could share. And all of a sudden, And I can still remember some of those conversations we had at that meeting. This was many years back, probably early 2011, 2012, way back. I can still remember that moment when we were seated in this restaurant, and when I shared this and everybody started sharing and we connected. And there's a special bond. And it's because at that moment I was willing to lose my reputation and willing to let these guys see my struggle. So what am I afraid of losing? Now, in that space I could share that. There are spaces I can't share that same thing. So there are spaces I will protect it. I remember a story of some young lady who was like, yes, I need to share because I want these people to know me, and then stood in front of a group of people and just shared something that broke everything she was hoping she was helping to build. And so again, is it the right time to share? Is it the right people? And we'll look at that in the next tool. And so, what am I afraid of losing? Second thing is, what am I trying to hide? Am I trying to hide that I don't know what people are talking about? Am I trying to hide that I don't understand what's going on around me? Am I trying to hide the fact that I am struggling with something? Am I trying to hide it? And then sometimes when you're trying to hide the fact that we don't know, the fact that we don't understand, the fact that we lack something, we might really not have that influence. And so, what am I trying to hide? Now, there's a place where at some moment you need to let go. Just let go. But the moment maybe it's not the right place really to open it up, to release it. The question again, that's why we have the red, yellow, green light. Is it the right time? Is it the right place to let it be? So, ask yourself a question. What am I trying to hide? And then what am I trying to prove? And to whom? Am I trying to prove that I'm the boss? And I keep telling people, the minute you start asking me, guys, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Then there's a big problem. Either there's a problem with you, or there's a problem with the people you're trying to push down their throat to know who you are. The minute you have to ask someone, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? There's a problem. And so, what are you trying to prove? Are you trying to prove that you are the one who knows it all? And to who are you trying to prove it to? And these three questions are very humbling questions. And again, I'll repeat what I said. I'll say what I said. These are not a one-time answer that once you get the answer, you'll always have an answer every interaction. It's a question that you need to have at the back of your mind when you're having a conversation with someone. Someone comes and says, hey, Gabriel, I need us to talk about this, and I need you to help me figure out something about here. And someone goes on and tells you their challenges, what they're going through. You need to be asking yourself, okay, what am I afraid of losing in this conversation? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to prove? And to whom am I trying to prove this? And when you're able to interrogate that, you can then say, okay, maybe let me also let them into my world so they can appreciate what it means to go through a process of transformation. Assuming you are yourself on that journey of transformation. And so you cannot at any given point continue to, your wall of self-preservation is way up and think you'll have an influence in anybody's life. People might know you, they might trust you, but they might never, ever, ever let you have any influence over their lives unless they acknowledge that you're also human like them. So I want you to think of this and ask yourself, what are you afraid of losing in any conversation? This is with your spouse. Are you afraid of losing your cultural norms? Are you afraid of losing whatever that? What are you trying to hide? Are you trying to hide to your spouse that you mismanaged the funds? Is that what you're trying to hide? Are you trying to hide to your team that something did not work out? There's some information that could change everybody's life and you're trying to hide that from them? Are you trying to prove something? Are you trying to prove that you're the one who signed the document, and if it doesn't come to you, then it's not a document that anybody needs to pay attention to? What are you trying to prove? Now, there might be a place for such things, but this question 3 is to help us interrogate that. So don't celebrate, say, yes, I have answers for these questions. No. These are questions that you use every now and then to ask yourself the question. When you're having that difficult conversation with someone, what am I trying to lose? What am I afraid of losing? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to prove? And to whom am I trying to prove it? When you're having that negotiation with a client, what am I afraid of losing? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to prove? And to whom? When you're having that conversation with your child, what am I afraid of losing? And when you're having that conversation with your parents, when you're having that conversation with your partner, when you're about to sign that MOU, when you're about to enter that agreement, whatever that is, when you're about to enter that relationship, what am I afraid of losing? What am I trying to prove? To whom? And what am I trying to hide from the person I'm relating with? And I want you to think through these 3 questions and ask yourself every now and then, are they standing on my way to a certain breakthrough, to a certain growth, to a certain whatever that is? Think about this, talk about them, engage them, interrogate with them, reach out if you need to talk about them. If you're one of those, like the day there's a time I threw it out there and people came back. If you want to come back and say, hey, Gabriel, I didn't quite get what you mean with this. Go ahead, reach out and let's talk about it, what we mean with it. Thank you very much for watching this, and I hope this helps you be able to just see how then do you lower your wall of self-preservation. Thank you.